Welcome to Freezer Meals 101. I'm Christy and I am solo today, as you can see. There is no Charla right here, cute little Charla. I'm on my own because today's meals are just for me. There are a couple of reasons for that and I will tell you all about it along the way. But I have 5 great recipes to show you today and I can't wait to show you because they are good and there's some of them we have not made for a very long time. And these are all just made for a very personal reason. So we will get right to it. So here I am. As you can probably guess, the first recipe has to do with sandwiches. These are the hot sandwiches that we make. Now, in the club and on the website, they're known as hot roast beef, turkey, ham sandwiches. Today, I am just making it with turkey and ham. It's just deli meat. And I also picked up provolone cheese and Monterey Jack slices. I made this sauce as part of my prep last night. In it is mayonnaise, some grated onion, some Worcestershire sauce, horseradish, grainy mustard, and poppy seeds. And it just is going to be our spread for these buns. So normally these are made with hamburger buns. And I will tell you, the reason I'm making them with sub buns is because my husband doesn't like sandwiches. And you're thinking, Christy, a sub is a sandwich. And I agree. But, you know, my husband has never been a sandwich guy. I could eat a sandwich every day for the rest of my life. I used to work at Subway. I still love the smell of Subway, and not everybody does, and that's okay. And so I never got sick of sandwiches, but I also put effort into my sandwiches. I will make them fancy. I will put tomatoes and cucumbers on them. If I have something interesting to put on a sandwich, I will put it on. And he won't, right? Like he won't put the extra effort in, and then he just has some ham and some cheese maybe, and then it's boring and he doesn't like it. But if I make him a sandwich, he eats it. But the whole purpose of me making these meals without Charla is 2 reasons. One, she is just the super busiest person ever, and she has things to do today. So I'm doing this solo, but also it's our summer holidays. And we are going up to where I grew up in Grand Prairie, northern Alberta. We had planned to go camping, and our plan was to go quadding. So like we go on ATVs and we go in the backcountry, and we were gonna go camp and then go to my family reunion, which is in a little tiny town called Beaver Lodge, Alberta. There's a farm near there where I grew up, and we will go meet on this farm, all my relatives. My dad had 11 brothers and sisters, so we have a very big family. And we like each other, and we like to get together. It's a good time. And we have a lot of musicians in our family, so a lot of that has to do with a lot of singing and sitting around a campfire. But speaking of campfires, we have just gone through one of the biggest heat waves, and we broke records all over the place that we've ever seen in Alberta. And today is the first day of like actual reprieve. It's drizzly and cool out, and we need it so badly. But there's fire bans. And a lot of times with fire bans come quad bans. You can't take your ATV out because if they sit in long grass for any length of time, it's possible, it's so dry, it's possible to catch that grass on fire. So we were looking forward to going, and I was talking to my brother. He lives up in Grand Prairie. And he's got a house full of people coming to stay with him for the reunion. And originally we had other plans. We weren't going to come. Those plans fell through. We were like, well, let's go to the reunion. We'll take the quads. And so I was talking, and we would bring our holiday trailer and the quads. And my brother said, well, I have my trailer here. Why don't you just come and stay in my trailer? I don't have room in the house anymore, but come stay in the trailer. And while I'm making these, I'm going to tell you, finally now I'm done cutting my buns. I should have done that off camera. He said, come and stay in my trailer. That way you only have to bring your quads. You don't have to pack your trailer. I'm like, okay, that sounds really good. That's really nice of you. So we're going to spread this sauce, the mayo sauce, on both sides, on the inside. Don't worry, I have a lot more in case I run out. I kind of overdid it because maybe I lay it on too thick. I don't know. You lay a couple of pieces of your meat. Now, because these are subs, which are different than sandwiches, according to my husband, I don't need to put like 2 of these on. I'm just gonna bend it in half, crack it like that, and make it like that. And then these can be wrapped up in tin foil. I will do that in a bit. So I said to my husband, you know, originally I was going to do a camping video of things that we could, I have a trailer, so it's all things I could make in the trailer, but also things that I can take on the quads. Because we're out all day, we pack lunches, wouldn't it be nice to have something in the freezer in our trailer that I could just easily take with me to go camping? And that was originally the plan. But then, once we're staying with my brother and we're going to the reunion, a lot of our meals are going to be taken care of. He's a fantastic host. He is the kind of guy that will definitely make breakfast for everybody, and it's a big ordeal. So, you know, maybe I'm overthinking this food here. I don't need to take as much as I think I do. So why don't we do this? We'll just take things. I need to take something for the potluck, for the reunion, for the Saturday night. I need to take something to go quadding, but I also needed something to leave behind for my daughter. My daughter is 16. She has a job. She has a car. And so she's got actually quite a life. She's a riot. And she is going to be staying home because she couldn't get the time off work. Partly because we had made all these plans a little bit more last minute than I wanted. And I thought, you know, okay, then I'll also make some meals for her that she can cook while we're gone. So I asked her what she wanted. She said, you know what, she's 16, she can read labels. As long as the cooking instructions are on it, she'll be fine, which she totally will be. So that is how I ended up planning these meals. So now, in the last couple of days, Alberta has basically caught on fire in a California sort of way, and there's a good chance that there will be quad bans. There's definitely fire bans. There will probably be quadding, ATV bans. And so I don't think we're going to go early and go quadding at all now. And why I had picked these sandwiches, subs, he'll eat a sub. I don't know what it is. I do know what it is. It's because he grew up eating sandwiches for school for 18 years. He doesn't eat cereal either. I'm like, ugh, what kind of... He doesn't like cereal, so that's okay. You can like what you like. I just don't get it, because I could still eat cereal every day too. And so originally thinking about making these sandwiches, subs, was because when we're out on the quad, it's hard to heat things up, right? Now, a lot of times I'll take wraps. He loves wraps. I need my sauce. A lot of times he loves wraps, but they are hard to make ahead and freeze because lettuce doesn't freeze well. And we like to have lettuce in our wraps, unless you're my son, and then you would much rather have the sandwich. So these are intended to be hot sandwiches, and I was like, okay, well, we can still eat them cold. That'll be totally fine. But because we aren't going to take them quadding, I'm going back to the idea of having them be hot sandwiches, so I am going to wrap them in tin foil. I've done 4 with the Monterey Jack. I'm now going to switch to the provolone here and see. I'm not going to label them because my husband and my son and I, we all like ham sandwiches. We all like turkey sandwiches. I opted not to make the roast beef, mostly because I was shopping at Costco, and to buy that many huge packs of meat was a lot. It was more than I had really wanted to spend or to make, so I just got the ham and the turkey. And you might be saying, Christy, you're doing such a good job of rolling those up into the tin foil. And I'll tell you, it's because I worked at Subway. And if you want to know how to do it so that they are wrapped nice, I will show you right. You put it on the corner, and you kind of put it off to the side just a little bit. So not square on the corner, but off to the side. You start wrapping from the corner, give it maybe a quarter turn, and bring in the tin foil on the left side. Wrap it another, I don't know, maybe an eighth or a quarter. And then you can bring in the tin foil on the right side, and then you can continue to roll. And that's it. Now when you go to heat these, you can heat them on your campfire. You can heat them in an oven. Be tough on a campfire. I would do it like super low coals and have them sitting above it, but they're in the tin foil, but they might burn in there. So make sure that they're raised above, maybe on a grate if you're doing it on the campfire. You can't do it in the microwave if you have the tin foil, but I think you could do these in the air fryer. If you're doing them in the oven, you can do them at 350 for 20-ish minutes. If they're frozen, you want to do them for 30, maybe at 325, maybe for 30 or 40 minutes. Frozen buns and frozen subs and frozen sandwiches can sometimes take a really long time to thaw. And we've discovered that with our sliders. Lots of times when I go camping, I'll take a pan of ham and cheese sliders. And now we have like a million types of sliders in the club and on the website. And you know, I have tried to do them from frozen, and they just take forever because that center, it's just so dense. So now I do completely defrost them. So I'm going to recommend that you completely defrost these, even though it says in the instructions that you can do it from frozen. Some people have better luck with it. People that cook their lasagnas from frozen, bless you. I've never had success doing it without badly overcooking the outside and still, you know, the inside, you're like, no, I can still feel ice in there. So, you know, it isn't for me. I just like to thaw it, and then I know that the instructions will work. I can trust them, I feel like. Fear not, I have labels for these. I only printed off a couple because I was pretty optimistic about having them all fit better. But I will write on these that it's ham, just so we can keep track of it. But there we go for now. Okay, that is it. I have these ones finished. I will get these into a bag and we will move along to the next recipe. Okay, so I got those done and out of the way. I'm glad to have them. Something I will tell you that I did that I didn't tell you before was that I actually made my sauce in the blender. It calls for grated onion, and maybe in hindsight I should have, but it calls for grated onion and then just to be mixed into your sauce, but I was in a hurry and I'm like, my blender is right there. It calls for 3 tablespoons of onion, and I don't know the last time you grated an onion, but it's kind of messy and it's not super efficient. Like I just use a cheese grater, but it's like, do you know what will do a really good job? My blender. So I put the mayo in, I quadrupled the recipe because I'm a little heavy-handed with the sauce. And I put the mayo in, I just cut up a chunk of onion. I did like a quarter of an onion and said, I hope that's right. And I threw it in, and with my horseradish and my mustard, and I did all that with the Worcestershire sauce, and I blended it to death. And then I added my poppy seeds, and then that was it. So I had a taste of it. It's pretty oniony. I probably overdid it on the onion, but I just felt like grating onions wasn't my jam at the moment. And so I just did it a different way, and I think it worked. The next thing that we love to take quadding are the energy bites. They are great for quadding. They are compact, they fit in small areas, they're high in protein, they're really tasty, they're good for after school snacks, they're good for I'm flying out the door and I don't have time for anything. Grab a couple of these and that will at least tide you over until you can get something real in your stomach. It's a great addition to like breakfasts. It is really, really awesome to have on hand. Now, looking at this recipe that I have in front of me, I made these at home. And I filmed an overhead for you to see, and I'm looking at the recipe that I have in front of me, and I was thinking I doubled it, but now that I'm thinking back, I quadrupled it. And that is why I'm not making them here for you today. I have a professional series KitchenAid, and so it's the big guy with the 6-quart, and it worked hard to make these. I wouldn't dare do that to Charla's little machine here. It's a KitchenAid, it's a beautiful machine, but just mine's the heavy duty version, and I would break it probably. So I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna do it here. I did do it a couple of days ago, They are in my freezer. Now, the reason I quadrupled it is because they are that good. They just disappear. And I was hedging my bets that I would be able to get them all the way to the deadline of when we're leaving and still have some left. So here's how you make them. I'm going to read the real recipe. You will see in the video that I have quadrupled it. 1 cup of old-fashioned oats, a half cup of unsweetened coconut. You will know that if you've watched this channel for any length of time, I do not do coconut. So I substituted with Rice Krispies and it worked really well. If you want to do coconut, you go right ahead. So it's the shredded coconut, right? Half a cup of peanut butter. I use the crunchy kind because that's just my favorite. I'm adding in ground flaxseed, 1/4 cup of chocolate chips. I use the mini chips and they just, because the balls are mini, I like to have the mini ones, that's all. And I use them for like pancakes for my kids. There's a time and a place for the mini chocolate chips, so I specially buy those for things like this. I add in 1/3 cup of honey, a couple of tablespoons of hemp hearts. I had a mix of hemp hearts with chia seeds already in my cupboard, plus then I just used also hemp hearts on their own. And quite a bit of vanilla extract for how much you're making, and then you are done. You mix this all really well. You can do this by hand, you can do it with maybe a handheld mixer. I definitely recommend using the stand mixer because it does the hard work for you. And then you start rolling. Now I have a 1 tablespoon cookie scoop, and I just get them on there when I've filled up my sheet. I just keep rolling. I put my scoop down and then I hand roll them to make room. Because this was such a big batch, I was able to like put them into the freezer right on the tray. You were gonna freeze these individually and let them get good and frozen. And then I came back and I rolled some more and I added those to the tray back into the freezer. I rolled some more, kept combining them on that tray, got them in the freezer, let them freeze for solid for a good couple of hours. And then I transferred them to my large freezer bag. Really, that's it. That is it. Now, when they go to thaw, sometimes they can get a little soft. So when we take them on our quads, they kind of can get mushy, especially if it's a really warm day. And I'm not kidding, a lot of times we prefer to just eat them frozen or barely frozen, and they are perfect. They're perfect. They are just so, so good. So if you have not made these yet, you go ahead and give them a try. You might have to put them into your freezer with a label that's like chicken livers or something if you want to hang on to them for a little while. Sometimes I do that with my Christmas baking so that my family doesn't look at that and say, oh, cookies, or oh, energy bites. But this time I just overmade them. So everybody can have as many as they want. Nobody feels like they're being deprived, and I should still have some left by the time we leave. Energy bites, done and dusted. This next recipe is cowboy baked beans. It is my all-time favorite thing to take to a potluck. People like chili, right? And they like the hominess and the warmth and the heartiness of a chili. This isn't a chili. Chili is a popular potluck dish. This isn't a chili, this is cowboy baked beans. So we do have baked beans here that we're going to use, but it's got ground beef, it's got bacon, it's got some barbecue sauce in it and some spices. It really, really is hearty, but it's something just a little bit different than the chili idea that I really, really like. Baked beans, different than chili. My understanding is, if you're from Texas, there is a big disagreement if chili has beans in it or not. And some will say yes, absolutely, unequivocally, yes, you put beans in chili, and others are saying, no, don't you dare put beans in my chili, it is no longer chili. Let me know in the comments if you are pro beans or not pro beans, especially if you're from Texas, but if you're from anywhere, I would really like to know if you agree with the beans or no beans. This is a beans recipe, so I'm not worried about it being chili. My go-to used to be a taco salad because we would use our taco meat, and then it was one of those things where I could prep everything ahead of time, and then you mix it all together. So it's your lettuce, your taco meat, your shredded cheese. You could put in tomatoes, you could put in red peppers, bits of onion. You could, sometimes I would put black olives in because sometimes I have them on nachos and I like it. And then you use Catalina dressing, and it's a whole head of lettuce, right? And so it makes a big bowl. I use the Catalina dressing. I really like that one as a potluck item. This one is my new go-to. The other reason I like this one is it goes in a slow cooker. So you can take it to the potluck. Sometimes, depending on how the potluck is set up, you have a place that you are able to plug it in and it can just keep warm. And that's totally awesome. This is a big recipe. It feeds lots of people. Let's get started. Into a large resealable freezer bag, you're going to add your lean ground beef that has been browned and cooled. You're going to add in 1 onion diced. You're going to add in diced green pepper, some minced garlic, onion powder, some cooked and crumbled bacon, a bit of brown sugar, some barbecue sauce, some Dijon mustard, and then 4 cans of baked beans. You're going to mix this all together right in the bag so you don't have to use a bowl, and then you're going to remove that excess air, seal it up, and freeze it. On the day of cooking, you are going to thaw. You're going to bake it in the oven for 1 hour at 350, or you can make it in the slow cooker on high for 2 to 4 hours or on low for 3 to 5 hours. You can serve it as a main course with cornbread or as a side dish or at a potluck. So this is all in the bag. We're going to mix this around now. Now this is going to end up in the slow cooker anyway. It'll get another stir there too, but I do want everything to be coated. The last time we were at a family reunion, it was in the same place, it almost always is. Years and years and years ago, my aunt and uncle used to have a jamboree of country music at their house, and in their back field they built a grandstand for like the stage, and they had a dance hall, and they had outhouses, they had a store, and they had a cook shack, and that was all set up there. And in the early days, I would go and play piano on stage, and I could play the Log Driver's Waltz. If you're Canadian, you know that one. I taught myself how to play it from the TV. And you know, my dad would take a turn taking tickets. We started selling tickets, and it ended up being 25 years of this Jones Jamboree. Well, eventually, her grandson bought it, and he and his wife now live there. They've renovated the house, but the grounds are all still there, and it's perfectly set up for us to bring in our trailers. It's perfectly set up for us to have a reunion, and so we do, and that's where we're going for it. And also in that area is the Red Willow River, and I grew up swimming in that river. And the last time we were at the reunion, which was I think 2 years ago, maybe 3, it was 2 years ago, and there was a bunch of us going down to the river. And it was a really great area because there's some rapids that you can walk through, and you could float down without scraping up your bum too much. And then there's a big eddy where it gets quite deep, and there's some current, and then it goes around a bend and it continues on down the river. So we would just come down the rapids to the eddy, swim around, get out, and do it again. And that is just one of my best childhood memories ever, ever, ever. And so I went with my cousins to this river. We went to a different spot, but we went to the river, and they have the little minnows that'll come and feed on the dead skin on your toes. So we're sitting on this log, and all of our toes are in the river, and we're like, you know what? In New York City, you'd pay $1,000 to have this done in a pedicure, but we're getting it for free up here because of where we live and the things that we get to do. So it was a really great day. I got back, I was able to get this done for the potluck, and it was just kind of perfect. It was really, really great. So hopefully they'll remember and think it's awesome, or they'll forget and think it's awesome. Either way, I'm glad to take it again. This next recipe is tater tot casserole. I don't think we've made it for a while on camera. We do make it in mega sessions fairly often because it's just a huge hit with our families, and it's homey, and it's good. Like, it really just is good. I'm going to make mine a little bit differently than how we normally do because I have a different purpose for it. Like I said, my daughter can't come to the reunion, and I'm going to make a few things just for her to have at home. She says, if I can read it, I can make it, and that's totally fine. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to make the tater tot casserole for her, but I'm going to make it into 2 8x8 pans instead of a 9x13. So it will work out. Normally we make the tater tots with the sauce, and we put it in a bag, and then we put the ground sausage in another bag, and we staple them together. But in this case, I do have a lot of room in my freezer at home right now. We normally do it that way to save room, but because I have room in my freezer right now, I'm gonna go ahead and make these into the foil pans and she can just cook them right up like that. So we're gonna start out in our pan with our ground Italian sausage. This is mild Italian sausage. If this was Charla, it would be spicy, but my kids are gonna eat, my daughter is gonna eat this, so I'm going with the mild here. There's no real reason, I could have done these in like little loaf pans too, so they would be like a serving for 1 or 2, but honestly, I didn't wanna figure out how to tell her to cook them. I'm not entirely sure I don't think you'd put them in for the whole hour, but I've decided instead to do it this way. Now, the package of the ground Italian sausage was a little bit bigger than a ½ pound, so there's a little bit more meat in here, but that works out because honestly, 2 8x8 pans are a little bit bigger than the 9x13s. So I think it's gonna work out okay. So I've got my ground Italian sausage in these guys. Into a big bowl, I'm going to mix together my cream of mushroom soup, and I'm going to add in some evaporated milk. My daughter is 16. I do trust her to stay home alone by herself. Originally, because we were going to be gone for so long, she was just making jokes about throwing parties, and I just said no. I do happen to have a spy that lives here. Like, people are going to be driving by, and if there's 20 cars in the yard, I might get a phone call, you know what I mean? But I did say you could have a few friends over. We just recently have put up a new deck and put up a swimming pool. We did have a long enough heat wave that it was like unbearably hot. We don't have air conditioning. It's not common to have air conditioning here in Alberta because our heat waves are usually 2 to 3 days. Well, this one was a week and a half, almost 2 weeks. And on like the hottest day, and we'd been building the deck, and my husband was he walked outside and he was just drenched within 20 minutes from how hard he was working in this heat. A little bit of salt and pepper. And my daughter said, you know, now's the time for a pool, Dad. We should do it. Wouldn't it feel so good to be in the pool? She's an excellent salesperson. She's a great negotiator as well, which is how come I probably said okay to a few friends coming over. She said, do I need to make an interactive PowerPoint presentation? Because I think that would help convince you to get a pool. She did that once to get a dog. It worked a little bit. We ended up getting a cat, which I'm totally fine with. I'd prefer to have a cat any day of the week. Anyway, sorry to the dog people out there. And you know, surprisingly, he said, okay. So we had a quick talk about it, and we found one online for sale secondhand from somebody that wasn't actually too far from us. And so that was good. And we did. We got actually we went on the motorbike. Normally, if we go on the motorbike, it's leathers, it's everything, we're super safe, helmets obviously. But it was so hot, we're like, let's cool off. And he said, I'll go slow, we'll take back roads, let's cool off. So we still wore our helmets, but we wore our shorts and t-shirts to ride the motorbike for 15 minutes. And it did not cool us off, it was so hot. So he went back and got it, we bought it, and it took us a couple of days to get it set up and get it filled. And now we have this awesome pool, and it's now finally cool out. We still have lots of summer left to go, so it'll be okay. But, you know, kids, if you're watching and you want to get that dog, or you want to get that skateboard, or you want to get that I don't know what. Okay, this is a double bag, like it's almost 2 kilos, so it's like 4 pounds of tater tots. I only need 2 pounds, but because I need to cover a little bit more, I'm just gonna kind of eyeball it at half, and then maybe throw a few extra in just to make sure I get good coverage in our little tins here. So here we are, it's mixing in nicely. I will just divide these between the 2 pans. Sometimes if you're creative, you can do this right in the bag if you're doing the bag, and you just pour the sauce over top and then you kind of mix it in the bag. But because I'm doing it in the tins, I had to do it in the bowl today, and that's okay. Half-ish, and then half-ish. I think this looks really good. Now I'm gonna just put tin foil on these. I think I used the end of Charlotte's tin foil when I was making the buns, or the subs. So we'll see. I'll have to look and see. Usually we put saran wrap and then tin foil them. However, I just read, somebody made a comment either in our Facebook group or it was on YouTube or something, and they said, we put the tin foil on and then we wrap the whole thing in the plastic wrap. And I'm like, I guess it would do the same thing, although with the plastic wrap, we often push it right down so it's touching the food, so there's less air, right? Air is the enemy. I have a t-shirt that says that. Some of you have seen it. I don't wear it often, but I do have one, and one of our viewers made it, and she's my best friend. She lives in Saskatoon, and she was just here. Her and her daughter came. They don't have an IKEA in Saskatoon, and so they both wanted to come. I just went and did a quick peek for tin foil to see if she has any extra anywhere, and I don't see any, so I buy the big Costco ones, so I could probably just do this at home, and that's okay. Anyway, my friend and her daughter, she wanted to do some redecorating in her room and wanted a new desk, and so maybe she did an interactive PowerPoint presentation, but they just used this time to come to Edmonton to come see the IKEA, and it was really good to see her, and it just made me think, you know, that this wasn't long enough. We stayed up way too late and then got up early and did stuff every day, and it was like, we need to spend more time together. So I think next month I'm gonna plan a little trip out to Saskatoon. I would love that a lot. So it doesn't say so on the note, but I will make sure that I write on there that says remove plastic wrap before putting it in oven. So these labels that I have, I printed them right from the Freezer Meals 101 Club. If you're not familiar with the Freezer Meals 101 Club, it is a place where we hold all of our recipes. Our recipes are also on our website for free, just so you know. But the point of the club is that you can go in and take those recipes, and there's a system where you can make meal plans. And then from that meal plan, you can print out, you can adjust the serving size. So for some of them, like the energy bites, I quadrupled. So I needed to know how much I needed to buy, and all of that gets printed out on a grocery list. So here was my grocery list for all the things I needed. It told me what I needed to get at the bakery, my tortillas for the next recipe, the hamburger buns, which I knew that I needed to get sub buns because of my husband. In the baking section, I would look for certain things to make those energy bites. In the deli, I'm going to get the different kinds of cheeses, and there's Parmesan cheese coming up. I needed that shaved turkey and ham, right? So it's all categorized here: meat and seafood, pantry, produce. And here's the best part: in the brackets, it has the prep list. Lean ground beef, browned and cooled. Ground Italian sausage, browned and cooled. Bacon, cooked and crumbled. So I knew what I needed to have done and have ready to be able to assemble today. Produce, minced garlic, green bell pepper diced, onion diced, onion grated, which I didn't. I did it in the blender, but we know about that. And that's okay. You can do what works best for you. This list is totally adjustable. If I wanted to write that in, I could edit and I could type that in and say, I don't need to grate it, I can put it in the blender. Red pepper diced small. So it's going to be minced. I used a different grate on my chopping tool just to make them a little bit smaller. Mozzarella cheese shredded. Everything I would need, right down to aluminum foil, how many freezer bags I would need, and how many large ones and how many medium ones I would need. So really, it's all here. Then I have my recipes printed so that I can follow the recipe and I can adjust the recipe. I've been making this long enough, I knew how to adjust it to make it work. And then I went in and I printed off my labels. So I have a sheet of labels here that I have printed off. So it has all of the cooking instructions on it and it has the date on it. So I know that I made this in July of 2024. I'm not sure when this video will go up. It could be, honestly, in August by the time you get to see it. But it's all there. It's all in the Freezer Meals 101 Club. There's exclusive video that not everybody gets to see. You have to be part of the club to do that. There are ways that you can filter what your recipes you're looking for. So if you see a massive sale on ground beef, you can come back to the club and filter for ground beef recipes And they all show up. You can make your meal plan based on that, so you could really maximize the ground beef recipes. When you meal plan, you save money. It's automatic. When you meal plan, you save money. When you make freezer meals, it's a form of meal planning. You automatically save money on a grander scale, because now if all those ground beef recipes were dirt cheap, I could make so many meals with them and get them into my freezer. And then I won't have to worry about groceries again. I won't have to worry about what's for supper again. And the next week when the ground beef is back at regular price, I'll realize, I saved a pile of money there. So there is a fee to be part of the Freezer Meals 101 Club. And I can tell you that families that are in it are saving hundreds to thousands a year because of meal planning and because of using the club. And the recipes are good. These taste good. Charlotte's really good at this. I'm a pretty good cook, and she's really great at putting a recipe together. They are good. Go and check that out right now, because it really is a lifesaver. I'm gonna clear down this, and then I'm gonna get started on the last recipe. You sticking with me? I'm glad to have you here. And it's tough to do this by myself. I miss Charla. There's times in the last few months where I've missed videos for a variety of reasons, and she's had to do them by herself. And she's like, it's so hard. It is, it's so hard. I know that you're out there, but for right now, it's just me and a camera, right? So I will feel better if you make lots of really nice comments to me in the comment section below about how much you enjoyed just having me all to yourselves. Okay, this recipe it's the best. Charlotte developed it a few years ago, and I don't even want to say developed. She threw stuff together, and it was amazing. It is spinach artichoke quesadillas. Now, we have a ton of quesadillas in the club. Well, it's probably one of Charlotte's favorite foods. It's a really great individual food. It's good for lunches. But if you have a lot of them, you can also pull a few out. They're easy to heat up in the oven. They're nice to toast in a frying pan. You can do them in the air fryer on a smaller scale. And they're just really, really good. But this one is the best. This is, I already said it. This one really is just so good. So when my daughter and I were talking about food that she wanted me to kind of leave behind for her to eat while we were gone, she's like, I don't know, make something stir-fry-ish. And I thought, okay, so, tater tot casserole isn't known for its health benefits, but it's comfort food and it's filling, and she could do it. She's asking for a stir-fry, so she wants something healthier. But I thought, what we haven't had in a long time, we haven't had the artichoke and spinach quesadillas. So here they are. And I'll just read it out first for you, and then I will go ahead and make some of these. So in a bowl, we're going to mix together artichokes, chopped spinach, minced red pepper, some minced garlic, mozzarella cheese that's been shredded, and some shredded Parmesan. I'm at the tail end of this one, and so I brought this one. I was at Costco yesterday. A little bit of salt and pepper to taste, and some red pepper flakes. You're going to mix that all together in a bowl, and then on each tortilla, you're going to spread about 1/4 cup or 1/3 of a cup, like a hefty spoonful of the mix, and then fold it over. And then I'm going to put it on these baking sheets, and we're going to freeze them individually. If you freeze something, if I threw all of these into a really sealable freezer bag and got them in the fridge, they would freeze, but they would also stick together, and they would stick together when they thawed. So what we do is, there's a few things that we tell you. We have to freeze individually, and then later, once they're frozen solid, you can transfer them into your freezer bag, and then they won't stick together. When you go to eat them, you can take out 1 or 2. To eat 2 of these, we consider a serving. Like, one isn't quite enough to fill you up. A second one or another half is a good idea. So if you want to take 2 out, they're folded, they're flat. You can cook these from frozen, and I have many times. I still tend to thaw them out because that's just me. But they go in the oven, they go in the skillet. Really, in under 20 minutes, you have such a simple and really tasty meal to eat. So let's get started here. So this really just gets mixed nicely. There's no Other than the garlic, which if I did pressed fresh garlic, it wouldn't be all that wet. There's a bit of moisture in everything, but as a whole, it's not a sauce. Do you know what I mean? Like it's just mixed so super nice. And all that cheese in there will melt and it'll hold it together. Do you know what I mean? So I'm gonna mix it really well, but it's not a sauce, it's a filling. All right. I think that is pretty good. I'm gonna get it on. I did buy the big bag of tortillas from Costco that's got like 3 of these bags in it. You can, just so you know, you can, here, let's start with that many. You can freeze these as well. So there's a couple of hefty spoonfuls on my tortilla. I'm gonna fold it in half, give it a little press down, and transfer it to my baking sheet. And once it's full up, I'll get that into the freezer. I won't get to bag these up until they're frozen, but it will be so nice to have them done. Fairly simple and so tasty. I don't really know how Charlotte invented it. She told me at the time. And honestly, if you look back through our videos, there might be a place where you hear the story, but it was a long time ago. And because like we ate them fresh that day and they blew our minds. So we're like, okay, for it to go in the club, you have to be able to freeze it and then thaw it and then cook it, and it still has to taste amazing. So we had to kind of check ourselves a little bit before we got too excited, because it had to go through like its paces. We had to put it through its paces. And so we did. And that's exactly what happened. We had it, we froze it, we thawed it, we cooked it, and it still was good enough. So not just good enough, it was still delicious. But that is also where we discovered you have to really, really not rush the process of the freezing it before it goes into the freezer. Or you have to make sure it's really, really frozen before it goes into the bag, rather. Could I make that farther away from me? How about this? Work smarter, not harder, Christy. So on the day of cooking for these guys, you're going to allow it to thaw or not, it's up to you. And you want to cook it in a medium hot skillet. And I'll just read it to you. It can be cooked from frozen. You can do it in the oven at 350. Check it at around 7 minutes. If it starts to crisp up by then, you flip it and give it a few more minutes. Or allow it to thaw somewhat and then do it in a skillet on the stovetop over medium-low heat, allowing the insides to cook and the cheese to melt and the tortilla to crisp up. And then you flip it once. You can do it in the air fryer at 350 for 6 to 8 minutes. Sometimes, depending on your air fryer, it's tough to flip these. Do you know what I mean? My air fryer has a basket. It's the dual baskets, and so they're just small. So I would have to cut these in half and put half on each side. Maybe I could do a full one on each side, but to flip it in that air fryer is actually pretty tough. So I'm just doing it like this. The other option would be to put another thing of parchment paper down and then flip and then layer them on top of that. Or if you are impatient and you need to get these into your bag, you can put parchment paper in between and in between each of the quesadillas, and that would be okay. All right, this one's a little bit full. That's okay. Other things that we like to freeze before we put them into the bag, like I mentioned earlier, the energy bites. You can do pancakes and waffles that way by freezing them flat. Sometimes we'll do baked chicken that's been breaded, and we make sure that they're frozen individually. Chicken Parmesan, we do that and make sure it's frozen individually. Ooh, that one's kind of full. These are going swimmingly well. This is supposed to make 8, 2, 4, 6, 7. I'm going to be able to make more than 8 with this. So there's going to be probably 12 in my bag, and there's a good shot that I'm going to be able to make 12. So that's good. We'll see. So something that has been happening here over the last couple of days, and happening fast, I had mentioned earlier about the wildfires. It's quite smoky right now here where we are. The town site of Jasper is basically on fire right now. People have lost their homes. There's been a few hotels burnt. And last night before bed, I saw a news article that the Jasper Park Lodge, the fire was at the edge of the property. It's a little ways out of town. I've stayed there a few times over the years. And Jasper is one of those places that's just very, very special to me. My parents met at in a logging camp in Valemont when they were young. My dad was a lumberjack and my mom was a camp cook, working with her grandma. And so they lived in Valemont, but their families were from Alberta, so you would go through Jasper a lot to get home or whatever. And then for a while, I have a lot of relatives in Kelowna, and when we lived in Grand Prairie, you had to go through Jasper to get there. And my brother was living there for a while too. He went to high school in Kelowna, and he was living with my aunt and uncle, so we could go play hockey. And so we would go through Jasper a lot, and I took a passenger train one time from Jasper to Valemont, just so me and my cousin, my dad took us, so me and my cousin could experience it. And my mom drove, and she met us in Valemont. And Jasper was always special. If we go to the mountains from here, it's often to Jasper. It's the same distance to Jasper, from us to Jasper it is from us to Banff. We have to go in 2 different directions to get there. But man, my heart is there. When my mom was young and she was living there before she met my dad, there's a gondola in Jasper up Whistler's Mountain, and it had just been built the year she was living there. So I would say this would be 1961, 1962, and she was 19 years old, and she was living her life, and she was the person that would go up and unlock the gift shop at the top of Whistler's Mountain. So she would ride the gondola every day, go and unlock it for the workers to do their thing, and she would do inventory, and she would do, I don't know what else she would do, but there was no platform, there was no building. Right now, I hope it's still there. Right now, you pay your ticket, it's probably a lot of money now, you go into the gondola like it's a tourist attraction, so it's got a building and there's lineups and it's safe, and you go up the gondola into another building. You get out into a building and then you walk out onto the mountain. At that time, it was just freshly built. She hopped out of the gondola onto the mountain and then went to the gift shop. And she was also working at a restaurant. She was living in a basement suite, or like a room for rent, that idea at that time. And she just has such great memories of it. So we spent a lot of time there when I was a kid, and I have great memories of it. And I'm just very, very sad that, all of the best parts of Jasper are being lost right now, and I hate to see that happen. So we're going to by the time you see this video, we'll know what has happened. We'll see the outcome. But in the meantime, we're just going to pray for rain and hope that those responders are safe and everything is working out. So these are ready to go into the freezer. I'm gonna just do that and get them in there. And here we have it, folks. I have 1, 2, I don't know how many, 3, and I don't know how many. And plus my balls, my energy bites that aren't here. I have so many meals that are going to work for so many different occasions. I have potluck items, I have individual meals, I have more individual meals, I have stuff we can take on the quad, I got stuff that are snacks, I got stuff you can heat or eat cold, and I have stuff that I've been waiting a long time to eat because I'm so excited about these. I'm so glad you joined me today. Please be sure to check out the links below. Check out freezermeals1.com. Check out the freezermeals101club.com. And I'll see you again really soon, and I'll have Charlotte with me, I promise. Thanks so much for being here. Bye and happy cooking. My mom grew up being taught how to cook from extremely conservative women. Her grandma and her mom, you know, they lived through the Depression, and my mom was born during the war. And so she's just very conservative, and it's like when you cut a strawberry, a lot of times you'll see on like YouTube or chefs or whatever, they cut the end off the strawberry, and then they turn it up on the end and they go chop, 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 and it's convenient because it's flat, the strawberries. So she would make sure that she used her smallest paring knife and just barely take out the stem, right? She wouldn't hull them totally like that. And so she was just very careful to not waste anything. Look at all that extra strawberries that they've left behind. They could make half a pie with that. Of course, she would exaggerate about it. And so one day she was having lunch, coffee with the ladies. I grew up in an area that was super community focused, and it was a farming area in northern Alberta, Grand Prairie area. And the women that my mom was friends with, and we were all neighbors, would have coffee every single day from about 10 to 11:30. And whoever would host would probably make a cake or have some squares and some cut up vegetables and have coffee. And that was it. And anybody who could go, could go. So usually somebody sitting at that table would say, I'll have coffee today, or I'll have coffee tomorrow. So they all knew the next day to go there. They would phone around in the morning, where's coffee at? And in fact, our phone rang one day and my dad went to answer it and he said to Mom, that's gonna be Vera telling us where coffee's at. And so he picked up the phone, and then this is in the 80s, this was before we had call display. It's very possible that at this time we still had a party line, and we had 2 rings, and our neighbors down the hill and across the creek had 1 line, or 1 ring. So it rang 2 times. My dad went to go answer it. He said, that's gonna be Vera telling us where coffee's at. And he picked up the phone and said, where's it at? And she said, Richard's. And we hung up the phone, and we laughed about that for a long time because it was such a normal thing for us to go for coffee. Back to my story. So my mom is sitting at coffee with, I don't know whose house it was, but there was a lovely woman named Marion who made me a baby blanket that I still have. And actually she painted a picture of chickens in watercolor for me for our wedding, and I have that framed in my house too. And she was a lovely person. And so they were talking about wasting, and Marion said that she sweeps her finger through the inside of an egg every time she cracks an egg to make sure she gets all of the whites out into the bowl because she couldn't waste. And she said, how many eggs do you think I've saved in the course of my lifetime? Probably 1. There's just such a little amount left in there. But it was just so ingrained into these women to never waste. Even when we were sewing, my grandma would be horrified to know how long the tails I leave on my thread when I'm sewing, where, it was such a hot commodity and everything was an expense. My grandma didn't throw out anything. You understand, right? So back to what I was talking about here. How many dishes do you think I saved by putting my stuff, combining my things, and then I go and do this to make sure I get it all out, right? I'm still making dishes. But it makes you feel better in the moment, and that is important too. I'm gonna save a dish here because it calls for 2 tablespoons of Dijon mustard, and I'm gonna eyeball this sucker. 1, 2. I did make a bit of a mess, so now I'm gonna have to clean that. Shows you, right? But I was gonna need the spatula anyway, because now I'm gonna add these beans in. And they are gonna be messy at the bottom, right? I was the youngest kid in my community that was attending coffee regularly. Mom was the youngest, and so all these other women, often they had grandchildren that I played with, but before I went to school, I would go to coffee with Mom, and so they would have toys, all these women, they would have toys that their grandkids would play with, and a lot of times they were different toys than I would have at home, so that was exciting. But I learned to play by myself. I remember one lady in particular, she said, oh, I'll go turn on the TV. It'll take a few minutes to warm up. Do you remember TVs that had to warm up because they had the big picture tube in them? And if they were old, they just took a long time. Isn't that funny? But it's just the way it was back then. And it was so much simpler. And I didn't ever complain. Actually, I was a pretty nice kid. I'm not bragging. I just was that kid. I was agreeable and I was relaxed. My brothers were 8 and 10 years older than me. And by the time my mom had me, both my parents were very relaxed parents. And so I was a very relaxed kid, and I could be patient, I could be quiet. They were never embarrassed to take me for dinner with their friends because I could sit quietly at the table. A little bit of entertainment. I wasn't an angel, but yeah, I was a pretty easy kid. And then my teen years, I was actually a pretty easy teenager. I did bad things, I just maybe hid them better than other kids, I don't know.